Okay. The first item to invite everybody to the meeting. I would like to have everybody introduce themselves real quickly. And we'll start with Bernie since he's on the phone.
All right, very well, thank you. This is Bernie Wiegand, Audit Committee member.
This is Bill Kelly. I'm the chairman.
I'll go next. I'm Jody Perrin, committee member and a TUSD parent.
This is Serena Martinez.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is Serena Martinez, a TUSD parent as well.
Val Romero, TUSD governing board and a budget liaison, but audit liaison.
This is Martha Smith, internal auditor.
And I'm Tanya Stigl. I am the secretary for the audit committee and the executive assistant for Ricky Hernandez.
Anybody else we have? Any guests?
Rob Ross, general counsel.
Okay. I want to read, or not read, but go over. We can have an executive session at a meeting of the audit committee, but it must be restricted to an item within A1 through A7 in 38.431, and most all of them do not deal directly with the audit committee, but I think it's one or two do. So those two would have to be have to be addressed if it fell within those areas in the audit, in the executive session. Okay. In opening the meeting, we did the roll call. Is there any agenda adjustments, Tanya?
Mr. Hernandez, did we have any agenda adjustments?
No, I don't have any agenda adjustments at this time.
Okay, thank you. We do not, Dr. Kelly.
Okay, call to the audience. Do we have any? Okay. Then minutes to the audit committee. I hope everybody has a copy of the minutes.
You should have been able to get on board docs and look at the minutes.
This is Serena Martinez. I just want to confirm that, yes, I do have the minutes available through board docs.
This is Jody Perrin, also confirming.
And this is Bernie Wiegand. I also have both meeting minutes.
And this is Bill Kelly. I haven't. On May the 20th, do we have any corrections, any things that need to be addressed?
I was calling you because
I have no comments with Dr. Kelly. This is Serena Martinez.
Bernie?
None.
Okay, do I hear a motion for approval?
So
I second
moved,
that
Bernie
motion to
Wiegand.
approve. Serena
Whoever-
Martinez. I was just saying, I second the motion to approve.
Okay. Being a motion for and a second, all members that approve these, could I have an aye vote? Those that don't, well, I'll ask for a nay vote.
This is Jody. Aye.
Bernie
Bernie,
Wiegand, aye.
Serena,
Serena Martinez, aye.
and Bill Kelly, aye. The November 18th board, oh, what was, okay, August 19th. Do I have any corrections or items that need to be addressed in that board minute document?
Serena Martinez, I have no comments.
This is Bernie Wiegand. I have none as well.
This is Jody Perrin. I also have none.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the August 19th board minutes?
This is
Bernie
Jody.
Wiegand,
Motion to
so moved.
approve.
I got, okay. I'll say Jody made the motion, Bernie seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Serena Martinez, aye.
Bill Kelly, aye. Jody,
Bernie Wiegand, aye.
okay,
Aye.
okay, we got all the board minutes done.
Yeah,
Right to the next item. I'm going through papers here, so. My second computer crashed on me, so I don't have something to use for my minutes, so I have a paper copy here. Okay. We need to have a call to the audience. Is there any people that have an item that we need to hear from?
no, Dr. Kelly, we went over that item already. We had no call
Okay,
to the audience.
okay.
We are on 4.04,
What is,
election of committee chair and vice chair.
oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Is it? I'm missing a page. What was the number you have? 4 point,
4.04,
okay. What, we didn't do the election of the committee chair.
Right,
4.0,
that's where we're at right now.
that was 4.03, right?
Oh, yes, correct. I'm sorry. 4.03.
Okay. We needed in the last minute to elect a chair and a vice chair. And I'd like to open up the nominations for Bernie. to be the chair? There's a second.
This is Jody. I'll second.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to be chair, that wants their name involved? If not, I make a motion, we close the nominations, and I better also ask Bernie if he'll be the chair before we vote on it.
I
Bernie?
appreciate that. And yes, I would be honored to be the chair.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Jody Perrin, aye.
And Bill Kelly, aye. I would like to put the name of Serena in as the vice chair. Serena Martinez. Do I have a second? Serena, right?
Is Bernie Wiegand second?
Is there any other people who want to be nominated? Hearing none, I recommend the nominations be closed. And
Mr. Kelly,
yes,
this is Serena Martinez. I am really honored and appreciate the nomination. My term is expiring here in August of this year. And I was not planning to reissue my term, or to request my term to be extended. Unfortunately, I have had quite a bit of changes in my family, a lot of more obligations. Fortunately, my father passed away at the beginning of the year, and not only I'm also last year also my husband and I also started our own firm, which put a little bit more responsibility than just having your regular 8-hour shift job. Definitely put a lot more responsibility on us on maintaining our financial. But with the loss of my father has now put a big weight on my shoulder, with especially now looking over with my mom. So I really appreciate the nomination. I just was not expecting, and I was not planning to extend my term after August. And I do apologize to everybody. I was starting to ask around and see if there were any individuals that were interested in joining the audit committee that I can recommend before my term was up. So I'm not sure, if that would be fair for the group to be a short term and when the vice chair position, I'm taking on. So I just wanted to make note of that and be clear and transparent to the group.
I felt that you deserved a chance on as chair and vice chair, and I understand in our conversation, I felt it's important that you be recognized, and that you might be able to do it, but I feel I'm going to abide by what you want. And if and any individual would like to serve, if Jody would like to serve in your place, I think she would be a good person to be on the board. I just want to get out of a leadership position. I don't want to leave the committee board, but I just would like some spare time to myself. being chair and not being in the administration level of the audit committee. I think I can do more as a member. So if Jody would run, I'd like you to tell me if you wanted to be on the as vice chair on the audit committee.
Dr. Kelly, thank you. I'm honored for the opportunity. You know, at this time, I would have to regretfully decline. I'm in the midst of a new job, and I feel like other commitments that I already have would suffer if I were to try to take that on. It's not that I don't want to. I'm very sorry, everybody, to not step up for this, but it's not the right time.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to be by default Bernie's vice chair. And if we can have a vote of it to approve Bernie and me as Bernie as chair, and I'll be vice chair. And if you can vote, all in favor would vote with a vote of aye.
Serena Martinez, aye.
Jody, aye. Jody Perrin, aye.
Bill Kelly, aye.
Wiegand, aye.
Okay, we've gotten through that. Okay. We have the agenda. We have discussion about it, committee attendance. We are short 2 meetings for this year. And that is one of the reasons I had on here. The attendance is important on our committee because after talking to some people and also looking at the procedures of the budget committee and figuring out what is a quorum, I looked at some documents from the former one of the former directors of OMLOT, Open Meeting Law, for the Attorney General's office, Susan Siegel. And her law firm, which she's now not an Attorney General anymore, has a documentation that said you have to add the active positions that you're researching for, plus your active members, and figure out what the quorum, a quorum based on that would be 4. And that's why we needed 4 people today. The other thing was, since the board voted on people to be on the audit committee, and this was a possible issue we had, in the August meeting, I wouldn't act on the 3-day or 3 meetings limit where I would have to ask people to resign from the board because they didn't show up. So I refused to take any action and gotten in a discussion with the attorney, and that was where it was left. The importance of the committee is the audit committee is here to help the district and the board determine if they need to correct some areas in each of the departments if they have problems. In districts that I've worked in, there are always people in my districts that said, we do it this way. I've done it for 20 years this way. Well, in 20 years, in 6 years in Chinle, I had the law change on me 3 times. And I'd eliminate this process, and the state legislature would put it back in. That's why that comment to me is a problem. The other thing is attendance can be a real problem if you don't do it the correct way. And I've seen districts get in some very tight situations. And that's another day. So attendance is important to me. And I think without going and hashing why we were ill or something or what happened, I just want to bring that up. And I think this next year, you know, if a person's in the hospital with the COVID, and this is a meeting, that's one thing. If I take a day off, I'm playing hooky. You know, it just that you have to look at it. We only meet 2 hours 4 times a year, and that's 8 hours. And some of the issues we get, we really need to address. And we have a good auditor and a good attorney, and you know, we need to utilize their resources. Okay, the next item, and that's all I had to say. And if you want to talk to me about that, fine. But I think we have a lot of information to digest, both from Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Smith, Mrs. Smith. And so the next item is expenditure update.
So Dr. Kelly, I guess I should have mentioned when we were doing agenda adjustments, I won't be able to have a presentation on the expenditure update simply because I haven't been able to have access to my files for the last 2 weeks in order to create the report that I provide to you. And I actually won't be getting those until Monday. So at this point, we're gonna have to postpone it until another meeting when I have access to everything.
Could you discuss that? I read the board meetings. Discuss the bond issue thing, the bond.
I can, but I don't know, Rob, because it's not part of the expenditure update.
I'm afraid I don't see that on the agenda. Would it have been part of your presentation for the expenditures?
No, it was a separate presentation on January 21st.
Okay, well, we can hold that off until another meeting.
Yeah, I can come back to the committee with an update on a bond, on what I discussed with the board on a bond at a future audit committee too, in addition to the expenditure update.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go on to Martha.
This is Serena. I just have a quick, I just wanted to see, Richard, I know you say you don't have anything because of what's occurred through the system. I'm assuming because of the hacking that occurred through the TUSD system.
Correct.
Are you able to, because all we know is that the system was hacked, but as far as in regards to the audit committee, from your department, are there any concerns, like financial concerns, or is it just the system not getting access to it? There are no issues like with funds or anything like that getting
right. The financial management system itself, Visions, is accessible. It's usable. We are using it. We did get access to that within 1 week's time. However, the files, the documents, the file storage where we have all our finance files, that's where I keep a pretty large workbook that I use in order to create the reporting. that I don't have access to. And I was hoping to have access to it this past Monday, but they're having to run it through some filtering before they give access to it. So right now the new estimate is next Monday. So yeah, access to documents is the one thing that we're still missing. But access to the financial management system is intact.
Okay, so there's no concern on a general financial, funds and
No,
allocation.
we spoke to our bank, which is Wells Fargo, and to the county treasurer, and we secured those accounts day one.
Okay, thank you for letting
Yep.
us know.
Okay. Martha, do you want to discuss your topic?
I'll be happy to. Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Romero to being the ex officio for our audit committee. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for volunteering. We greatly appreciate it, and we welcome you aboard. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha.
You're welcome. The topics that I have are a little bit, I wouldn't say complicated, but they're just a little bit lengthy. So I'm going to try to make them as short and as sweet as possible. I would like to also start with just kind of providing you a couple of definitions, because there's two audits, unfortunately, also having to do with the cybersecurity incident that we had. I haven't been able, I'm going to have to postpone a couple of audits that were already in progress. But with that in mind, I'm just going to give you a little purview of a couple of definitions. Number one being how audits, not how audits work, more like audits are set in three different categories. The main one being the assessment audit, which is in essence viewing what a department or an area that is going to be audited, how that compares to the processes and procedures that are supposed to be followed. That's the most common type of audit that I normally conduct. That could include a program audit, it could include a progress audit, a financial audit. Most everything falls into an assessment audit. The second kind would be a consultation audit. A consultation is more like a friendly conversation with the department or the manager that oversees a particular area that is going to be audited. They have, that particular manager has the opportunity to go ahead and ask questions. We get to have an actual conversation of what the findings are, and we get to actually review things fairly ahead of when the actual draft report is going to be issued. The third one, which is the least common, but nonetheless, that has already occurred within the district, that is a review audit. A review audit is commonly done when there's an anticipation that there's going to be an external consultation, an external auditor coming in, and it's kind of done to try to capture some of the areas that could be of an issue and hopefully capture them prior to an external auditor or a consultation coming in and saying, hey, this is where you're lacking. There is no guarantee that you're going to be able to capture everything, because obviously we have a large district. However, it is an opportunity to be able to utilize the internal auditor in a way of being proactive. Any questions on those three? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go into the difference between an internal auditor and an external auditor. It seems to be self-explanatory since one is internal and the other one is external. Nonetheless, the major difference has to do with who pays who. I am considered an employee of the district, therefore I am an internal auditor. My focus is to benefit the district in the best possible way that I know how, to provide value and added risk assessments in lieu of anything else that might come as the year progresses. All this is usually done by providing an annual plan and sharing it with the executive management, the board, the audit committee, and legal. External auditors are very much set. They are usually doing an audit that has to do with compliance, such as the Auditor General or the single audit that we're required to have. So with all those little definitions in mind, and the reason why I did this is because the one that I wanted to share with you is one that has to do with the disaster recovery and business continuity that was completed on the Technology Services Department. And I created it as a PowerPoint, but it's not meant to be really reviewed. What it is that the last time that the audit committee met, this audit was not completed, so therefore it was not discussed with you, since it was completed on August 31st, which was a little bit prior to the actual meeting. And again, the reason why I defined a consultation versus an actual assessment audit is because originally this audit with the audit committee, I'm sorry, with the technology services was performed as a consultation. That consultation took place back on June 30th of 2021 or 2021. It was, once you do a consultation, or once I do a consultation, a year later, in agreement with management, there's an actual assessment audit. Now think of the consultation audit as when you're in school, you know that you're going to have exams, but if the teacher gives you the exams with the answers, hopefully when you actually take the exam, you'll be able to pass it because you have the answers, you have the exam. That's pretty much what a consultation is. Well, that one was conducted with TS on June 30th of 2021. The audit, the assessment audit, takes the exact same things that were discussed in the consultation and creates the assessment. The assessment is now saying, okay, this is what we talked about back in July 2021. Now I'm going to verify that what you agreed on is exactly what you have accomplished and completed. That's what that disaster recovery and business continuity included on August 31st of 2022. Again, the report is available and it has been published. It was addressed as far as does the district have a disaster recovery and business continuity in place? Based on the audit, they had a disaster recovery that was considered to be incomplete and a business continuity plan that was non-existent. Any questions? Okay. I'm going to go on to the next one. The next one that was completed.
Dr. Kelly, I have a
Yes.
question if I may, or I have a comment.
Sure.
So I did see this report that Mrs. Smith put out there today. I did speak with the superintendent and with the chief operating officer who oversee the technology services department. And two items to bring to light. One, the disaster recovery plan that was drafted after the Arizona Auditor General's performance audit in 2018 was complete. There is, at the time that Mrs. Smith created this report, there was a disaster recovery plan that in fact was put into effect the first day that the system went down. What Mrs. Smith is looking for are specific written policies and procedures in a binder on a shelf somewhere in order to basically address some of the steps that she's looking for. She was told that these items don't exist because we have systems that are essentially out of the box, owned and operated by people like Microsoft and Cisco. And those operating procedures belong to Microsoft, right? So our teams implement the disaster recovery plan to the extent that we then have to activate components of the Microsoft system. And we don't have those written out page by page. It would kind of be a fool's errand to have, you know, a 100-page, 500-page document on a shelf that would have to be updated when that's really not the way a disaster recovery plan should work. Moreover, the disaster recovery plan that was created as a result of the 2018 Auditor General's report was presented to the audit committee in 2019. That audit committee reviewed that disaster recovery plan as a result of that Auditor General's report. It has been discussed with your predecessors and the former governing board members. So there are components related to, you know, quote unquote, not having a disaster recovery or business continuity plan in place that actually are in place, which is why the district was able to reactivate all of its systems within 10 days of a, you know, of a breach of our systems on January 30th. So I just want to make sure that the committee is aware, because these are comments that both the superintendent has given to the governing board, and these are comments that the chief operating officer and our executive director of technology services has given to a former audit committee as it relates to the Auditor General's report. So there are components of this internal audit report that my colleagues would probably refute to a certain extent as it relates to disaster recovery and business continuity. So I want to make sure that the audit committee is aware that it's not that these don't exist or that these are incomplete. They exist, they're complete, and they've been activated in the last 2 weeks.
Can I interject a question? Does any documentation show a path to these things you were talking about with Microsoft and other companies?
Microsoft would have those types of documents in terms of how do you reactivate.
No, I mean, what is the connection between TUSD and Microsoft that says TUSD has a document, these are contained by, these are in our, we utilize these that are maintained by Microsoft. Do you show a path that you have these systems?
Those would exist. So the agreements that we sign with the individual providers of the various systems that we have implement terms and conditions related to disaster recovery and how those get activated. Our team members would then activate those elements when a disaster is declared as part of our cybersecurity or our network infrastructure. And at that point, whatever that process is that Microsoft lays out to say, step 1, you would do this, step 2, you would do this, and step 3 or whatever, those are laid out with them at the point in time that they are necessary. We don't keep them because these systems have an evolution cycle. They have a life cycle. And so those components evolve and change, which is why we don't keep those. Because we don't write the programming for how we run Microsoft Word or our ERP or things of that nature. We implement those systems based on the disaster recovery protocols and the plan, right? The plan itself tells us, informs us what steps we have to follow in order to contact what vendors, follow whatever protocols, how do we contact law enforcement, and so on. And we implement those different system pieces. There isn't a step 1 TUSD will turn off this and step 2 TUSD will do that. It all is part of the information that comes from the vendors to the district's technology services department.
The question why I asked that, I worked as superintendent of Salt River Pima Maricopa, and we had a plan with them for, if we had a massive problem with our computers. We changed the entire community's computer system every 3 years. We dealt with Dell, and they came in and took out the old computers, put in the new, and brought all the programs over to the new ones. We had a program similar in if there was a disaster recovery program. But we had a document that said, this area, contact this firm if you have a disaster for backup. We had a path to them, is what I'm saying. Does TUSD have something that shows a superintendent or assistant superintendent in his school area what to do in an emergency and who to contact?
That's the disaster recovery plan that was provided to the Auditor General that has been maintained, and that is what was activated at the point in time that the network disaster was declared.
Dr. Kelly, if I may, Mr. Hernandez was not present during the presentation or the closing exit meeting with both the Mr. Young and Mr. Hamadi. So I'm referencing just my conversation of the end result of the audit. That is it. I'm not questioning anything else. I'm stating that this is what was provided. This is what was agreed. This is what was reviewed. And as far as I remember, there was only 3 other individuals present, and that is what I'm reporting on. So thank you very much for your feedback.
Okay.
So the next one that I was going to be speaking about was the ESSER audit. That was completed. It was completed as a consultation. Again, the consultation is basically a discussion with management and going into areas where there seems to be some areas for improvement. The consultation normally would have an assessment audit followed a year later. However, because the ESSER audits are a one-time funds, it was decided and it was discussed also with the executive director, Mr. John Lanza, that there was not going to be a need to go ahead and do an assurance audit, given the fact that the ESSER funds are not going to be a repeatable thing. It's just going to be a one-time set of funds. So those are the two audits that have been completed. Unfortunately, the ESSER audit was delayed due to things that were outside of internal audit's control. The next thing that I would like to share with you is going to be the actual update on the, and I think that, Tanya, can you please bring that up for me?
Which one did you need, Martha?
The spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet.
Let's see here. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All this is basically an update of what has been performed through the year. If you notice at the very top, there's those bright little colors up there. That has to do with each one of the years. That would be the very top part. And this is the way that I could go ahead and provide the audit committee an updated sequence of events of what has been transpiring and what has not. As you scroll a little bit further down, you'll be able to see that they are related to each one of the sections below. So right now, I had originally scheduled 6 audits to be performed during the year. Unfortunately, because related back to the cybersecurity that we just had, the employee relations is not able to access their M drive, so that audit is going to have to be rescheduled. I already spoke with the director of employee relations, and it was agreed with her that it would go ahead and start on July 17th of the coming year. I'm going to go ahead and issue a memorandum, and it will be shared with the superintendent, the governing board, the audit committee, and legal to let them know that it has been agreed to go ahead and postpone it, because at this particular time, they were told, the employee relations department was told that they will not have access to their M drive until a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks from yesterday. So audits normally take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to complete. I had already done the entrance meeting with the employee relations. However, given that it will take an additional 3 weeks, that is past the midpoint of my audit process. So therefore, it has been agreed that it would be postponed until the beginning of the school year 23-24. Based on that, I'm going to continue to go with the grants federal program, which was already in progress. It's already moving forward. There's no delay there because most of the things that I have to access and test are outside of the district. So that has not created any kind of delay. Towards the very bottom, if you continue, where it says ongoing schedule follow-up audits, that is basically the audits that have already been completed that are still pending to have all the implementation of what was agreed with management that they would complete to be fulfilled. So as you go further down, you'll see the very bottom, it has the completed audits that have been already closed. Right now, there's been only 6 of them. However, because of the cybersecurity and all this delays that we've experienced, I'm just going to end up falling a little bit behind, like a couple, or I would say about a month or so behind. But overall, this will provide the audit committee a very nice overview of what has transpired during ever since I started. And it also includes what was previously performed by the previous auditor. Any questions? If not, then that concludes my report. Thank you. Okay.
The concern I have in audits is, and what Mrs. Smith does, is perform an audit to tell the district where they may have a problem. It's not to create a problem, but to tell them where they may have problems in accounting procedures or documentations. Now, my experience, I went through and I requested a audit that involved the Attorney General, the FBI, several other agencies, a lot of federal grants in Arizona in the late 70s. There was only in 2 other districts. One was Bullhead, it was the high school district in Bullhead City, which was 3.5, 4 million in the red. And they couldn't document a lot of the stuff. And the other was the Indian Oasis, where they had a similar problem that I had to take over in Chinle. If we had an internal auditor in those 3 districts, 2 of them I worked in, I worked in one. I was in the community as an assistant superintendent in the elementary in Indian Oasis. I knew the board members from there and was asked questions how to do stuff. Looking at an internal auditor, primarily her job to me is to go through the documentations and say what is wrong and what is right. It's open to interpretation when they sit down and discuss it. The purpose is not to get a performance audit by the state, a negative audit. The plan that you were talking about, Ricky, is, I can see where you're coming from, but my question is that documentation easy to find?
Dr.
Can-
Kelly,
What?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Hernandez has left the meeting because he has a doctor's appointment. But I could go ahead and answer your question.
Go ahead.
There is that document that Mr. Hernandez was describing. It does exist. And while it does exist, the conversation that I had with the director, which is Mr. Young and Mr. Hamadi, was exactly addressing what you're asking. It is readily available for the people that need it. However, there was a couple of areas where, and it was agreed by them with me that yes, there's an opportunity for improvement. So it's not the question whether it exists or it doesn't exist. It exists. However, there's areas that could be improved, such as, I'll just provide you a general example. Such as a vendor, if they are responsible for X areas, it would be ideal to know what is their accessibility. If they're only accessible between 8 and 5, well, during an emergency, what's the alternative? Who do we call? Some of those little steps are what was missing. And that's why I considered it to be somewhat incomplete. Okay, because if we have an emergency and they're a part of the essential area, we would like to have a after hours contact information. Okay, they're not earth shattering things, but they are still considered incomplete.
I know what you're saying because I went through that when I was on the reservation and when I was working at the university. When I took over, I was managing a lot of very different programs. And we had NSA, CIA in the department I was working in. Yes, we had some programs. We had the Russian or Soviet computers. We monitored Soviet computer systems through different agents, 4 different agencies. And I know what you're talking about, and I understand what he's saying, but my argument is there has to be a resolution to get people to work together. And that, I think, when we meet next, we need to work towards that with both the audit division and the business division. Your business management positions. I mean,
Yeah.
directors.
I believe that I have said this before, but I don't think that it has been repeated enough. And I echo what you said earlier. The goal of internal audit is not to give a grade of an F and say you fail on moving on to the next audit. The goal is to try to find a resolution of how do we improve things. However, when things are taken personal and they cannot be differentiated, then I feel that all of a sudden the whole goodwill gets lost. Because just as an FYI, the responses that were provided, the report itself is fairly long, it's 34 pages, but the responses by themselves were over 60 pages. Things that were included in that response were unnecessary to be included. As a matter of fact, I had to redact a lot of it because by providing that response, this is supposed to be a public report, but some of the things that were provided are not meant to be shared with the public. And so it had to be redacted. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, that when we lose that connectivity of we're working towards the same goal, we work towards the same employer, the goal is still to be able to basically protect the kids and move forward and making a better district. Not whether you're doing your job or you're not. I'm here honestly to try to help. How do we do it better?
Well, what I would like to see is somehow getting a common bond between the 2 areas so we can communicate. I don't want to blow this up into something.
Oh no, in with that sentiment, Dr. Kelly, I have a good working relationship with Mr. Young and Mr. Hamadi. We do have a good working relationship. When the exit meeting took place, it ended up very amicable.
What I think I have to do at this point, because Mr. Hernandez is not here, is stop discussing this issue.
That's fine.
And then do it when I can talk to Mr. Hernandez and then talk to you and get some resolution.
Well, in
Yes.
preface, he was not present, so therefore it's hearsay.
No, I understand. I hear what you're saying, and I heard what he's saying, but I don't want to go into it without both.
No, I agree.
Present.
I agree.
Because then if I take his version only, it's hearsay to you. And if
yeah, we're fine. You can move on to the next point. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Tanya, did we get any complaints?
No, we have not.
Okay.
Dr. Kelly, this is Rob Ross.
Yes.
I did get a complaint you should have as well. It came through the audit committee portal. And I can talk about it with you or Mr. Wiegand, since that's how the charter works. But I will just tell you that it's not something that would be substantiated as a complaint. Even though complainant says it just made the person wonder, not that there was actual wrongdoing alleged, but that's something that I can discuss with, I guess, whoever the chair is. I thought it was Bernie, but I can share that with you if you didn't get it.
I did not get it, Rob.
What you could do is, can you send me a copy and Bernie a copy? And then we can talk about it.
Absolutely. I'll send you the entire, well, it wasn't a big thing. I just asked a couple of follow-up questions in anticipation of discussing it with you. I'll send you and Mr. Wiegand that whole chain.
Does it do something that is in our area?
I do not believe so. You can take a look at it yourself and see if you want to request any follow-up.
And then I'll get back to you. If I don't feel it's in it, I'll talk to Bernie about whether he feels it's in our area, and both of us can make a decision and get back to you. If that's
Sounds
okay.
good. Thank you. And I guess I need to check back in with, maybe now's not the time to check in with technology services about why the distribution didn't work as it has in the past in getting the chair a copy of the complaint, because it didn't come directly to me. It came to the audit committee portal. So I will check in on that too.
Thank you.
Dr. Kelly, this is Bernie. We can just have a question for Rob. Is that something that is just subject to the chair seeing, or is that something the chair and vice chair be on the distribution list? I've never seen anything as vice chair.
Well, I haven't either, so we're both in the same position.
Well, with respect to this one item, but I'm wondering in the future, is that something that we have a protocol on at all?
You got me, because the only time I saw anything was when Jimmy or Darren brought it to the meeting, or Mr. Ross brought it.
Dr. Kelly, your microphone's up. So
I would, when I was a member, it was Jimmy or Darren would get a copy of it automatically, and Mr. Ross would. When I became chair, I didn't get a copy, but Mr. Ross would get the copies. And now you don't, if you were supposed to get them last year. If you didn't, you were in the same position I was in.
we didn't have any last year. This is the first one we've had in years.
We were lucky then last year.
The only
That's what I presumed was the case, was just that we simply didn't have any, that it wasn't a matter of not getting them.
normally I'm notified through the board, through the committee, and I haven't gotten anything. So I was kind of surprised when you said we had something, Rob.
Yeah, I will get it to the committee leadership and also check in do another test of the complaint system, because I remember the last couple of years we've actually tested because we didn't get anything and it did work. So I will re-request that the emergency broadcast system. We'll get it up and running.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. the standing, does anybody have a RFI request for information?
Dr. Kelly, this is Bernie Wiegand. You know, I'm thinking by our next meeting, things like the annual single audit reporting package should be available, as well as the annual audit, which isn't on that list, really should be when it becomes available each year. You know, that the presentation should be available to us for our next meeting, I would think. I assume that the board has already been presented with last year's, the fiscal 22
Well,
annual report.
why don't you send a list of things you feel we need to Tanya? I have some items that I think I want to see, and one is the document that was presented to the board about bonds and the bond issue, dealing with the amount of money. I also would like to know what the enrollment is at each of the high schools, if that can be gotten for me. I also had an item brought to my attention, and I don't know whether it's our area or not, but I have a distinct concern whether the Title IX ideas are being taken care of on the facility side. When you have a leaky pipe in the one of the high schools.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
I could expand on that. That is one of the follow-ups that I have right now with the interscholastics. And thus far, they're trying and scheduling some of the work. But the biggest issue that they're running into is that they don't have the resources. But I already conducted the meeting with Ms. Desire Wheeler. I conducted a meeting with operations, and I conducted a meeting with engineering. Okay.
I'm dealing with some issues in another. I advise some people in Title IX, and I don't want to discuss the issue, but I think that needs to be addressed fairly quickly. That's my observation. It's an observation. I'm not going to say any more. Any items to be brought on the agenda you want on the agenda next time? Bernie has some, I have some. Does anybody else have any? Jody or Serena, do you have any items you want on the agenda?
I don't have any.
No, I don't. Thanks.
Okay. Any internal control issues that we need to discuss? First, I want to ask Rob, is it okay if Val Romero says something?
I didn't. No, I'm just sitting here being quiet.
It certainly is okay if you wanted to. I mean, the committee can take, as long as it's, you know, generally related to the agenda, the committee can take information from anyone.
Okay. I thought I could say I saved the best for last, but Val, do you want to say anything or communicate with the committee? Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say thank you guys for being
Did we lose you or?
something that you think I should know that's very important from something as very kindergarten to high school. Please let me know, but speak in the simple words until I get my grasp around all these acronyms and different terminology. Not being in the school industry, I'm overwhelmed sometimes. So thank you guys very much.
Thanks for being here, Val.
I can barely hear Bob, Russ.
I didn't say anything, Dr. Kelly.
I thought you did. Somebody said, the sound went off for me for Val. So there being no more business, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
One question more, Dr. Kelly. One more question.
Yes.
Will you be setting the meetings for the future? Or how does that work? Do we have to do that today?
I forgot one item on the agenda. We do need to have 2 extra meetings. We lost a meeting when they set up the meetings for this year, and we missed the first one. So how do I get 2 meetings? Just set the procedure up or pass it?
Well, you have everybody here now. That it could be a good time to try to at least tentatively set a meeting. That would be my recommendation, since you have the committee all here today.
Okay, what months are best for everybody to meet? I can meet anytime, but we need to pick up 2 meetings. And we need to know, Tanya, what are the scheduled meetings we have right now? What months?
You have, you had one in August, November, February, and the next one is in May.
So,
May 19th will be the next one.
so we need to pick up a meeting in April and a meeting in June, and we'd have it. Can everybody meet in April and June? Jody, can you meet in April and June?
I believe I can. I think there's one Friday where I couldn't in June. And I can tell you in a moment what that is if you need to know, but otherwise, yes.
Yeah, we need to, what do we meet on the 4th Friday?
3rd Friday,
The 3rd Friday?
looks like it.
What about the 3rd Friday in April and the 3rd Friday in June?
3rd Friday would be April 21st.
The 21st for April is perfect for me. On the 14th, it's actually my anniversary, so I'm sure we're gonna plan something since it falls on a Friday this year.
Okay. So you can't meet in either of those days.
The 21st.
21st, okay. What about you, Jody?
April 21st? Yes, I can.
Bernie?
Yeah, and I'm good on both those dates. Can you
Okay.
clarify why we need to add meetings though, Dr. Kelly?
Pardon?
Is that in our charter?
Well, when they scheduled the meetings, we only had 3 and we're supposed to have 4. And that wasn't, I mean, they changed the meetings in the charter. We had like 8 meetings because we were off for 2. No, we had 10 meetings. We were off for 2. Because when I got on, we had 10 meetings. And then all of a sudden we were brought down to 4.
So we did miss the November meeting this year.
Now, June, what?
June 16th is the 3rd Friday.
Can everybody make that date?
Yes.
This is Jody. I can. Yes.
Bernie,
Yes.
Serena,
Just to confirm the date again, was it the 23rd you said?
June 16th.
June 16th. Yes.
okay, I can make that.
So we'll have April 21st, May 19th, and June 16th.
And in regards to whether we can do it, they said we could have additional meetings if we need them. Well, when they took one, didn't give us one, and then we had one that we couldn't have, that would be our 4 normal meetings. This would be we had one in August and this one, and then the 2 in, yeah. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Jody. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jody,
Aye.
Bernie,
Aye.
Bill, aye. See ya in
Have a
May.
good day. Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
Good weekend.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Have a great weekend.
Good weekend.
Thanks,
Good night.
everybody. Thank
Bye.
you.
Finally, we got that meeting out of the way.
All done.